Hello, and welcome to episode 7 of the Way to Change podcast. In this episode, I spoke to Aya, who is a dear sister who's living in the south of Spain. She is a mama. She's also a doula focusing on postpartum and placenta. And she is a menstrual therapist and is holding yoni steaming ceremonies in the south of Spain. So in this episode, well, along with all of those things, she's also kind of a walking library for everything to do with the feminine, everything to do with, the goddess and women and sisterhood and our wounds and our blood and our cycles. So this episode is very much that, very much focused on that. We speak a lot about sexuality and sacred sexuality. Aya shares her own journey on that path and how it's kind of continuing to unfold. We speak about the cycle, women's cycles, and, the power and the potential that lies in tuning into each phase of our cycle and the kind of gifts that wait for us if we choose to tune in to these seasons of our cycle. We speak about the womb, about feminine and masculine energies and how these are embodied in women and men. We speak about sisterhood and blood and reconnecting to the earth, living closer to nature and reconnecting to her cycle and to, our great mother's cycles. And we speak about contraception. Aya shares a natural contraceptive method that she uses that she uses in combination with the great method of, being in tune with your cycle and knowing when you ovulate and when you bleed. So these are very much the topics that we focus on in this episode. So thank you so much to Aya and for her beautiful expression of the feminine just in her being and how she is. And also for her, power and just power in being a mum of a 2-year-old little baby girl, plus, really doing this work for the rise of the feminine. So thank you so much to her, and thank you to her for coming on to the podcast. We also, in this episode, speak about 2 projects that we're co-creating at the moment, which were birthed by Aya, and she has asked me to do the artwork for the projects. So the first one is a moon calendar, which will be released in April or May of this year. And we speak, a lot in detail about kind of what that is. It's not a calendar, so to speak, as in like a yearly calendar, but it is more so a way for women to reconnect to 13 cycles of the moon in order to reconnect to their own inner cycles. And we also speak about our second project, which is a moon diary, which will be released in October and November of this year for a diary for 2025. So I'm really excited to be co-creating with Aya. I'm learning a lot about myself and about sisterhood and about co-creation through these projects. So I'm very, very grateful for Aya and for this work that is coming through. So thank you so much to you for tuning in and for listening. If you would like to support the podcast, you can now do so on Patreon for as little as $1 a month. And as well as that, you can like and subscribe and share. All of these things are super helpful, as well as just listening. So thank you so much, and I hope you enjoy the episode.
Hello.
Cool. Hi. Welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome to the podcast. I'm really, excited to speak to you, and excited to. It feels like we're kind of co-creating a couple of things at the moment, which is nice and exciting. Delving into the realm of sisterhood co-creation, which is definitely yeah, in a way, like in a deep way, kind of still new to me, I feel. But it kind of seems to be coming into my reality, this idea of sisterhood co-creation and the power of sisterhood quite strongly. I mean, it has been for the last few years, but particularly at this time, it's kind of been popping its head up in various ways. And so, yeah, I'm just really grateful to be on that journey with you in various ways, including this podcast that we're doing right now. So let's start with kind of like who you are and yeah, like where you're at in your life right now, and a bit of your background and what your yeah, like what you feel your mission is at the moment, what your passion is.
Okay. Wow, deep question. First of all, thank you. I'm really grateful to be here. Also, as you said, the power of sisterhood is such a strong thing to work with. So I'm really happy we can like step into that and co-create so many beautiful things. And yeah, who am I? Such a big question. Let's see. First of all, right now in this life, I'm a woman. Yeah, that's like my first body mission. And I'm a mom. And also my passions are working towards honoring the cycles of the woman and honoring the different phases of it. That includes also birth. That is the biggest cycle. So I work as doula and postpartum and early motherhood. Includes the cycles of blood. So it's like the menstrual cycles and ovulatory cycles also. The conception of it, so like the sacred sexuality, the awaken the sexuality in the woman, I think is a really powerful journey to go through, and it was actually what got me starting in this journey as a woman, awaken my sexuality. So yes, through that journey, just being in sisterhood, just honoring that constantly and just being service for women in awakening this consciousness within us and just empowering each other. It became really a mission for me. And I think in this way also I'm in service to Mother Earth, which is actually my deepest service I'm in. So, which is the biggest womb that holds us all. So I think if we're in service of Mother Earth, and then we just co-creating with other wombs and just like being in service of other wombs, so we can all feed this Mother Earth that is actually, I feel, the mission in this life. That's why we came in this human body into life, and what will give us birth and what we'll come back to. So it's like feeding ourselves and feeding everything. So that's kind of what I'm dedicating myself to, and just sharing. It's just like activism around it and just like holding women around it. And not only women, actually, because I feel like by awakening women, we can also awaken men and we can awaken children and society in general. Because, yes, also I feel this lack of consciousness in society around women's cycles, women's sexuality, this big cycle that is the birth, the pregnancy, the motherhood, that are not really held in society. So also creating this space for this to be held, honored, and just being also center of society, like in ancestral wisdom and tribes.
Yeah.
So yes, those are mostly my passions also. Yes, I think that kind of covers the question.
Big missions, yeah, for sure. Big missions that you're on in this lifetime, Aya. Okay, so yeah, it sounds like you're really honoring the goddess. And yeah, I really, really am grateful for that, and feel very much on that, on this path as well. As the feminine kind of rises, and as we're kind of seeing her rise seeing the energy of the feminine rise in, like you said, this story is not about lifting women up above over men. It's about raising the collective through the energy of the goddess and through the energy of the feminine. And for me, like you really embody that. It's in your energy. And so let's take us on a little journey from how you, like you said, actually awakening your sexuality and working with your, like, liberating your sexual energy was what kind of started you on this path. Do you want to speak a little bit about that and how that kind of came up for you?
Yeah. So I was really on this journey of self-development and just really was looking for myself and just to be the best version of myself, to really be in service, to find my mission and all of that. And I could see really clearly, like, all these, like, holistic ways of finding this alignment, right? It was like through meditation, through yoga, through practices, pranayama, lots of reading, lots of journaling, and I was really on this path, like fasting. And yes, I was a yoga instructor at the moment, and I want to study more yoga to India. And on the other side, I had this powerful sexuality within me, like this, like, sexual desire constantly. But in all the practices I was making, it was about how to control this sexual desire, you know? So, and every time I had actually a sexual encounter, it felt this, like, kind of more erotic part of myself, you know? And somehow all these practices would say you have to be centered and you have to be gentle and you have to be like, and this was all what it didn't talk about. It was like all this, like, animal and this wild part of myself that was not really centered, just wanted to feel and be, and didn't really care about the consequence, just was in that moment, you know? So I didn't know how to balance them both. And so I decided to go into celibacy and do all these practices and really, like, devote to that, because maybe I was wrong, you know, and I had, like, something wrong within me with all these feelings I had and all these, like, actually natural needs as a human. That's that's a need as a human, this sexual desire, you know.
Yep.
So once I was in India, and I did my yoga and I was studying Reiki and I was studying all these, I was not bleeding for 4 months now, but I was not really aware of that because I was fasting a lot. I was really on my journey. I was, like, having, like, lots of channeling, and I went once to see this, like, holistic therapist that told me that I had my crown chakra really open and my third eye really open, but my root chakra was completely closed. That I had to do something, but I didn't care at the moment because I just wanted to have my third eye open and just to see everything from above. The root chakra is like to be like, it just makes you more human, and I don't really want that right now. And then in my journey, of course, in India, I discovered Tantra, and I went once to a Tantra retreat, and where actually is, like, one of the biggest roots of yoga, and then it divides more, but Tantra is what covers it all. And Tantra embraces sexuality instead of leaving it out. So it's yoga is enlightenment embracing sexuality. But not only embracing sexuality, sexuality is all the emotions also. Just not to meditate through them and just to forget about them. Just it learns you to feel the emotions, to go into them and actually, like, so it's okay to feel them. It's okay to be angry and to be, like, and have rage. It's okay to be sad and cry like crazy, like the world is gonna end. It's okay to feel all of that. You don't have to be centered. You don't have to meditate through it and just, like, yes, it just means like you're not in the path because you're like moved by that, you know. If somebody touched you like a button that you don't like, you shouldn't like, you're not okay, you're not in the good path of enlightenment, you know. And I found this like a really masculine way to find enlightenment. And when I was going through Tantra, I saw this also, this sexuality also arising in me that actually wanted to be alive in me. But I never knew how to live my sexuality with consciousness. Also, as a woman, that we have all these repressions of like, and I didn't really know much about my body and my genitals, about my orgasms. I didn't know anything about myself. So how I was actually going to enjoy it, how I was actually going to live it with consciousness if I didn't know about it, if it was not spoken about. So that was great for me to discover. And actually, that was my root. That was the root that got me to realize I was not bleeding. And that was actually not okay. I was disconnecting from Mother Earth by not bleeding. You know, it's just a service to bleed and to give back to Earth, and I was not doing it. So it was also like a sign of something not flowing through my body, some energy and some chi that was not really healthy, that I had to look for, right? So this tantra workshop led me to another tantra workshop, and then I realized, wow, this is actually really healthy to have a good sexuality, good relationship with my sexuality, to embrace it and to feel it. And actually, I want to feel it. I think there are different paths of enlightenment, and that mine was not just through meditating 8 hours per day. I made lots of vipassanas, and then, you know, and it was like, it's not my path. There are different paths for everybody because everybody's in a different journey and has a different mission, but it was not my path.
Yeah.
And just feeling this sexuality arise, connecting to my genitals, healing traumas from inside, seeing all these shadows and the lies that it brought, all the emotions I had stored, because actually we have so many meridians that go through our vulva that sometimes we don't even touch them, or we just have less penetrative sex, or just like different kinds of orgasm that don't really like relax our vulva and don't really let us connect with it. So I realized, that it needed to be taken care of. That I had, yes, I would like get a Reiki like healing or an energetic healing or just a massage in my body, but I was not healing my vulva. I was leaving it aside. I was like, actually, like, this is like really sexual. I should not like get in there. I should not touch it. It's just like, and this huge taboo that is where so many memories are stored and so many traumas are stored. And if I want to heal, I cannot leave something out. I'm just leaving it in the shadow. So it was the place I was bringing the most shadow in my body. I was not bringing light to it. I was not bringing it to consciousness. I was just living it out of my path of enlightenment, let's say, of my path of healing. So then I actually brought it to the center and was like, okay, what's going on here? Why did I leave it aside? What is this energy that is so powerful? And it's just, in the world, it's really powerful. It rules so many of our decisions, of so many of our creations. It's just really a really center for me, an energetic center. So that was my awakening, and then I studied like tantric massage for women and for men, but I centered in the woman part of it because it was, yes, the first time I received a tantric massage, I realized like how healing it is, like to touch parts of yourself with such deep consent, care, with your boundaries respected, with so much safety and so much love, with no actually like sexual intention or attraction in it. It's just like this safe space for you to heal. It was so deep. I think I was never touched that way ever. And this really activate me in a way like, oh my God, all my sisters should feel like this. They should know this is possible. And that actually this deep healing touch can actually open all this trauma and all these shadows and the healing we have to do in sisterhood. Also dedicated to women because I feel like I would like to work with my sisters and to feel like this is a place held for the feminine to rise, because I was not really arising my feminine in that. I was working through my masculine energy of that is really important to have both, right? So my masculine energy was really worked in this efficiency, routine, meditating every morning, my morning routine, my yoga practice, my pranayama, all the things that actually I still use today and still get me activate also my feminine energy and my sexual energy. So that's how I got into it. And then I discovered that my bleeding was also talking to me in a way that I didn't knew myself, because I didn't knew my cycles. I didn't knew different versions of myself. I just knew this devoted version of myself. What about all the other ones that I awoke with my sexual energy and that actually awakened me? Why do I only embrace this version of myself and not this version of myself? This angry version of myself with rage is also part of me. And I want to love her too. I don't want to leave her out. Because that means I can love then my brother and my sisters more when they are angry. I don't leave them out because they're not conscious enough. I can embrace them and, okay, you're also on your path and it's okay to be angry. It's okay to be sad. And I had them especially with anger. Sadness was easier for me to talk and to feel. But anger, that is such this fire emotion, it was really wow, how do I work with this one? How do I feel it in a healthy way? And now I love to have this fire. Anger has helped me in so many things in my life, with my projects, with my boundaries, with my safety, this is how I feel safe and I'm not taking less because I love myself and I love that my anger is showing me that I deserve this, So it's been such a reconnection with this part of myself, And then diving deep into the cycle, it was wow, and there's space for every version of myself if I actually look at myself. We are just these cyclical beings because, we're woman and female, right? And there is feminine and masculine energy. We both have feminine and masculine energy, and they're both really important within us. But there is also this part that physically, in this lifetime, we're women and men in our genitals. And there is a physical difference. So even though we are the same, there is a physical difference that it doesn't mean we're more or less. It just means we have different missions at the moment to live with our genitals, which is a truth right now. So within myself as a woman, I awaken my feminine and masculine energy. But I embrace this woman nature of myself, which in this lifetime is in service of being a woman. And that by her nature has a cycle. It's cyclical. It's not like the man that is stable and their cycles are shorter. They go through testosterone changes, but through the day, their cycles are really short. So through the day, they can change these testosterone levels, and through the day, they have different phases. My cycles are from, depends on the woman, from 25 to 32 days. Like the moon and the sun, they're not better. They work with each other, but they have different missions. So I realized I should not try to just find enlightenment or find my healing path through a way that is not natural for myself, I just should respect my needs in my nature, because my body is talking another truth to me. So yes, connecting with my cycle was just really deep, to connect, to love all the versions of myself, and to find my deep self-love within me and my sisters, and how I would never like just be truly fitting these ways of let's say healing, because I'm changing on this time. What today affects me doesn't affect me tomorrow. And although I can use these techniques in my life, if I look into myself and into my patterns, I can be in service to Earth in different ways. So this was a really deep healing for me also, into my menstrual cycle, my ovulatory cycle. Because by this time, when I was not bleeding, it means I was not fertile, actually. So connecting with my fertility, what conception meant, right? And actually realizing my biggest fear, because I was really happy actually I was not bleeding, because I was like, okay, great, I don't need contraception now, I don't need to worry about that. But actually being pregnant is such a freaking miracle. Fertility is so uncommon right now, actually. And I was born with this fear, oh my god, since I'm small I should have the pill, or I just use this and use that because I'm afraid to be pregnant every time I have sex. And actually it's a freaking miracle, especially in the society we live in right now, that we have so many toxins that make us more infertile. So actually like conception is really like something we have to admire. Like people look for kids for ages, and to conceive a kid is not like, oh my god, they're gonna touch me, I'm gonna be pregnant. Fear that I had, and that there is around society, and I see my sisters all the time, we just don't live sexuality in the same way, also because of this fear that really limits us. So I was in the process of like making myself fertile again, like connecting with my fertility. And like my way of life was not making me fertile, and my path of healing was not making me fertile, was making me unfertile. So it also was speaking that it was not my path. So discovering all these versions of myself was such an awakening as a woman, and yeah. And then I stepped into this, like, really living my cycles. What if society would accept all the cycles of the woman? What if we women would be accepted for our cycles by our sisters, first of all? No, first of all, by ourselves, which is the biggest part of it. Then to communicate it to our sisters and bring it all together, and then just bring it to society and just be able to live a life that is natural for us. Because when we live a life that is unnatural to our bodies, of course we're going to get sick at some point. So it was, of course, there is like ways, because society right now is focused on a masculine way of living and the healing path. And so that's why it was such a deep mission of me, because I saw this like, okay, in societies like that, okay, I can understand that. And you have to work every day. You cannot even get sick. That is already, you cannot miss a day of work. Every day you have to be there for your kids, for your partner, for everybody in the same way. Life is created for efficiency and in this masculine way. And then the healing path was also in this masculine way. And I was like, wait. Where is actually the space for us?
And I'm supposed to be here.
To be like, So, I mean, again, not to diminish that. That's really important. I still use the lots of those techniques in my everyday life. But then I looked into like, okay, tribes actually would have as the center of society their kids. The kids were the center. Then the woman that held the kids. And then were the men that would hold the space for the woman to hold the kids. And that was like, wow, this makes so much sense. So I really went into also that route of healing, and into that wisdom, into that shamanism, because I saw it's a path that actually embraces women and embraces kids. You know, if I go to a Vipassana 10 days, but I cannot take my daughter, I have to leave my daughter down, I cannot breastfeed, I cannot, like, it doesn't work for me right now. It's not a reality for a mother. It's not a reality for a bleeding woman to fast when she's bleeding. So what's real for me was awake in my body, and I saw this path actually was embracing them all. And the society they were making, it was not efficient. It was reorganized around the kids, and that are the future. Like, it's not technology the future. It's not like the more we make, the more we get. The kids are the future, so they are the center. So this was amazing, and every woman would be held in their cycle. If they made any ceremony, okay, who's the bleeding woman? She would come to the center. Or the other day I went to the sweat lodge, and they were like, okay, you're bleeding right now, right? So your channel is more open, your oracle and your intentions are deeper for all of us. So you should. They made me come to one side and made a red belt with intentions I wanted to make for the whole sweat lodge, because I was more open in that moment because of my bleeding powers. So I was like, wow, this is a space that actually honors that. And not only honors that, like, it just embraces that in a way that is uplifting for the woman and for the society. It just knows its powers. And I think we don't know our own powers, so we cannot actually help more. So by knowing my different phases of my cycle, I got to know the power I had more awake in each phase, and the power I could feel the most, and just give the most to the earth, to my brothers, to my sisters, to my daughter. So yeah, that was kind of the path that took me into this, like, cyclical living, and I realized actually it's possible, and I'm so happy that I can give myself permission to live that way, because it's also, as I said, not everybody's reality, but there are like hacks to be able to, even though you're like living a normal life in society, in a normal job, being a mother, being a wife, being whatever you are right now, there is also ways to just being conscious about this and just awaken this womb consciousness that is within you. And once it unlocks in every aspect of your life. You're a better wife, you're a better mom, you're better at work, just knowing in which phase you are and knowing what's awake on you. And it also brings health to all your body. So, and the more I got into it, I realized how little I knew about it, about natural contraception, about my sexual energy and my genitals, about my cycle, and about bleeding, about ways to hold my bleed in a natural way, about the rites of passage as a woman, that is the first bleed, that is such a deep moment for a woman. And I was not really, my mom didn't know how to hold the space. And if I can hold that space with consciousness, I can bring light to that. I heal not only myself, but my mother and my grandma and my great grandma that could not live it that way. And I can change that for my daughter and for the friends of my daughter, her female friends and her male friends, that can respect her in that, and that she can find a way to live a life that feels healthy for her womb. And since she's really small, I can already feel all these patterns, like how people don't embrace kids' anger. They don't embrace their sadness. They prefer to distract them with something else instead of, like, it's okay to feel angry. It's part of you. And you have to love this part of you also. You have to love your sadness. I can see my parents getting so triggered about that. And so triggered with me when I live okay, I'm a bleeding woman right now that needs to rest, that needs to eat, that needs time for herself. I need to take care of myself. I need my rituals this week. I need, and they get really triggered because they don't allow themselves to have this space for them. And they were never told this was a possibility, actually. Yes.
Yeah.
And then this leads to the biggest rite of passage as a woman that, well, not the biggest. Is the first one is the marine arc. The second one is motherhood. That is like, because we have this 20-day average cycle, like the moon, in which we go through all the phases of ourselves. And then we have these seasons and these phases of ourselves through our life. Pregnancy is a 9-month cycle, right? So it's these 28 days, but expanded. So if you don't know your cycles, if you don't know when you can conceive, then how can you live a pregnancy with consciousness if you don't really know what's going on? You don't know your little cycles. Now everything is intensified and the volume goes up. So if you before needed time to rest for 3 days, now you need them for 9 months. If you were angry in this phase of your life, there were like 4 days that you were more sensible. How do you do it for 9 months that you have this sensitivity? Right? So these portals open that are bigger, and you can leave them more smoothly if you already know all of the versions of yourself. Because when pregnancy opened for me, you become this super sensitive being. It's like you're premenstrual for my 9 months. Well, no, sorry, like you're menstruating for 9 months. It's like you're bleeding for 9 months. You're really intuitive, really sensitive. Your channel is open. You just want to be with your belly and your baby. And yes, you're just really connected to earth. I would walk a lot, be in nature. Everything else, I could not have like rational conversations so much. Music that I liked before, now it was like really like noisy and not really nice anymore. So for every woman it's different, right? But you become this channel for the soul of your baby to come into your body. And we have that every month in shorter days. And if you're awake to that channel that opens to allow a soul, like it's a channel that opens to allow a soul of a baby to come through. It's such a big channel you have right now. But if the baby doesn't come in because you were not fertilized, if you didn't get pregnant this month, that those days last for 3-4 days. Your channel is like just bringing all this channeling through you of source energy. You're like magic this time. This is your superpower if you're aware of it. And then you come back to another phase of yourself because there was no fertilized egg. You are not pregnant, so you come to another phase. But once you know this wisdom and then you can extend it for 9 months, it's so powerful. And the way you live birth also changes. So yes, for me it was like, oh, and then I understood my body. Oh, I understand my hips. I understand my vulva. I understand my breast. To breastfeed, I understand my hips that open. They're really open in birth, like 10 centimeters. They just, body's amazing. So to be up in another dimension meditating is great, but to come back to the body and feel this wilderness and this animal that wanted to give birth in its most wild version, it was really, wow, I'm also the earth and I'm my body and I'm a human right now. With all these emotions and all this wilderness that should be accepted for me to be able to give birth. It's okay, the pain also, which is the really big thing of birth. Pain is there, but if you're okay with it, if you're okay with being human, if you're okay with feeling it, you can transmute it. But you cannot meditate through birth. You have to feel it. And that's the only way to meditate, transmute that. And we can't transmute that. Because, as I said, men and female have different amount of different percentages of hormones in their body. So our hormones in pregnancy are so weak. So even though I wanted to be centered, I couldn't, because my hormones are more powerful. Because they're in my body, they move every liquid and every cell of me. So actually, I didn't even know my hormones, what was going on through my small cycle. So in my bigger cycle, that my hormones were leading myself, because I was having such a body experience that was giving birth. They were like on control of everything, of my hunger, of what I wanted to eat, of what I could handle, of my rationality. They were in every aspect of myself. So I can like live my life without looking at my cycle, but the hormones are there. Yeah, and you cannot do anything about that.
I want to like go into what you're really bringing up in terms of like your how your first kind of introduction to the healing path, and you know, stepping into this, to wanting to heal and to wanting to grow and to wanting to want to, you know, awaken your mind. And then you kind of found yourself in this like you described it as quite a masculine kind of like rigid structure of like, you know, sit there and meditate. And I found myself in a very similar situation. I didn't like go to India or do Vipassanas, but I found myself in a very similar, and I think a lot of people do find themselves in this situation of like being put into like this structured way of like trying to awaken, which is like very mental and very kind of like, you know, sit there and meditate. And for, you know, the longest amount that you can meditate is like equivalent to how enlightened you are, kind of thing. And I also got to the point where it wasn't actually doing much for my healing. It definitely helped me bring my, you know, train my mind and bring my awareness, like train my awareness. But it didn't do anything for like my body and my like bodily healing and my, for sure, yeah, like you were describing, you know, getting in touch with your sexuality and feeling the power of, you know, the healing power and the awakening power of your sexuality. You know, if you're just sitting there for 8 hours a day with your eyes closed, for me, it's very, and like you said, everyone has a different path. And for some people, if this is the path that they super like feel and is their path, then go for it. Absolutely. But I really do like the way that you describe it, that you felt that it was quite masculine and kind of like, where's the feminine chaos? Like, where's the feminine, like bodily, where is the earth incorporated into that, like the actual physical earth, which is also a reflection of our physical bodies. Like, where is the kind of physical healing of the earth that's needed, and in that process. And so, yeah, it's really nice to hear you like reflect on that, because it kind of reminds me that, yeah, like some years ago now, I also went through a similar process and then ended up making my way to ayahuasca, which then obviously opens the door to the feminine, opens the door to the goddess, opens the door to the earth, no? But yeah, wow. So as you were like on this path of, you know, walking into the spaces of Tantra and walking into, you know, allowing your sexuality, which is like, as you said, like the most natural and powerful energy that we have as both men and women. What kind of like blockages did you come across, and or do you still come across in delving into that space? Because I think it's a space that holds a lot of potential. It's definitely a space that I feel like I'm only just like dipping my toe in now. Like, I definitely don't feel like I'm even close to my potential and my full expression in that way of my sexuality. So what kind of things have you come across on your path in stepping into your sexual power, stepping into sacred sexuality? What things have you found to be blockages, if you have found any, or like difficulties on that path?
For me, the first big blockage was that, yes, if I had like this sexual, let's say this high libido, it would mean like I'm erotic or something like that, and I just want to have sex. But actually, I also wanted to be held and just to be cared, and this safety and this child that needs to be like hugged and taken care of was also part of that. But I thought I had to be either one version or the other one, right? And I was not comfortable in just being this like erotic version of myself, but also I was also this part of myself, right? And if I was this tender person, I was afraid to open this sexual part of myself in case like the relationship or whatever the encounter would go that way. So yeah, for me it was really important. Boundaries. It was the first thing that I learned. Clear communication and consent. Just because safety actually makes the vulva open. When you're not safe, the vulva contracts and it can be really traumatic for the genitals of a woman. So I didn't even know like the pleasure I could feel because I didn't know myself and I didn't know the contraction I was living down, because that was my normal. And I didn't know it was a possibility to feel so safe. Like, I thought it would like kill like the mood, or something like that. And actually being able to speak about it beforehand and just to have this clear communication and where my boundaries are and just to be clear with myself, and lots of self-exploring also is really important for me, because the more unconscious sex we have, the more we lose sensitivity in our genitals and in our organs. So the positive pole of a woman is in their chest, and I had a blockage with I didn't feel any pleasure in that, and I lost my sensitivity on it, because it's where actually our sexual energy is built, in the chest, from the holding, from the mother, from the love, from the safety. That's where our positive pole is. And negative pole is our vulva, the one that receives. But this is where we create. When we give, it's actually the giving, the breastfeeding. And actually, like, reconnecting with that also was really big for me. So I think finding a safe space, having really clear consent, not only means no, but if I didn't say anything, it doesn't mean yes also, That's really like being really, let's say, over communicative. It was really healing for me. It actually opens me more to feel more safe. This clarity is actually super healing for me. So that was a big thing in my path. And that's why I feel every time I hold ceremony for a woman, either like birth, postpartum, massage, I can see how this safety and this consent and these boundaries opens herself to receive more in every aspect of life. So actually, it is about the sexual energy, but it is about ourselves. It's not like to have better, more pleasurable sex, which you can also find that on the path, but it's also about a healing about like, do I feel respected? It's about self-love, which is the path for me. Because the more I love myself, the more love I can give, of course. And the more I respect and consent myself, the more I can give that. And I think it opens every woman more.
Yeah, wow, there's so much shame and guilt intertwined in the sexual experience for both men and women. It's very it is such a big topic. It's almost like, yeah, like I said, I really feel like I'm kind of just starting to dip my toe in to this work, because when you think that you've gone into it and then you kind of uncover more layers of healing your sexuality and igniting your eros, your the power of your sexual energy, of your life energy. It's kind of like there's no end to the potential of what's there, because it's a life energy, like it doesn't end. And so, yeah, I really do feel, especially as women, this is our biggest wound, like, or one of our biggest wound, probably our biggest wound, like, because how can something so like raw and fundamental to our nature as a living being, like, how can that have been suppressed and punishable by death for thousands of years? How could that have not had an imprint on us? And how can we like not pay attention to healing that aspect of ourselves? You know, such a fundamental wound. And it's great that this is coming up in this conversation. Thank you for bringing that into this conversation. It's also so beautiful that that's kind of like what sparked your path kind of back to the goddess and your inspiration for the goddess, because there's so much power there. There's so much potential there. I was watching a podcast the other day on, yeah, all kinds of things around this topic, like sex magic and manifestation with our sexual energy. And it's like just areas of this type of healing that is like, whoa, that's a thing. That's like, that's witchcraft, you know? Like that's what they were burning us for a few hundred years ago. And now it's coming back. And they're not burning us now, but they are suppressing us through contraception and through all of the other, you know, suppression of the feminine that still exists. So maybe we can speak a little bit about that. You've definitely like touched on some of it already, like some of the the ways that the society is kind of still keeping the power of women lowered. And I think a lot of that is through, you know, shaming for sexual expression and hormonal contraception and all of this. But yeah, what's your like perspective on that, and also your perspective on how we can like move ourselves out of that, because that's the direction that we need to go, I really believe.
Wow. Yes, I agree so much. I think we're really powerful when we know our sexuality and we open this. You know, it's like this path really opens and we become powerful and we become more beautiful because the energies awaken us. So I think it's a big. Yes, when I heard about this, is what? Okay, what else? I don't know, and that's how I got more curious. And yeah, I think it's really, as you said, about sexuality. First thing you have to do is explore yourself. Just be really curious, create safety, and ask for safety, consent, and boundaries. And if you cannot work on them by your own, just find a place you feel safe, somebody that you feel safe with, and just know you deserve the safety to open yourself more. But I think self-exploring is really important. For me, it was like also yoni eggs. I don't know if you heard about them. They're these crystals that are like really powerful outside of you, but once you connect with them and they connect with your vulva, it's like that is your creative portal. It was a really deep practice within me in my path. to connect with my sexuality, to connect the magic that there is in it with the gentleness and softness that exists also in it, and just and to combine both, to meditate with yoni eggs, to just and explore more myself. I think that was really key, because if I don't know myself, how can I ask somebody else to hold me if I disconnected from myself?
Right.
Yes. So you can ask
Right.
other people to meditate if you know what meditation is, but you have to meditate first. Same here.
Mm-hmm.
And that there
Mm-hmm.
is no taboos around that is really important. I think that was a really big one, also to see how my sexuality changes through my cycle. So I think that's also a really important technique as a woman, to track your cycle and to see the patterns and to know the phases of yourself, because I can tell you from my side what I lived, and in which phase of the cycle I go through what. But that is me. And yes, and there is some qualities that are more awake in each phase generally, but you have to know yourself. If you track your cycle, you are your own teacher. I don't have to teach you anything. You can know yourself when you are more available for this energy, where your sexuality is more awake, where you feel more erotic, more sensitive, and when you feel like you can do masculine practices, when you need more feminine practices, when you connect with more different rituals and different ceremonies, when you're more creative and your creative energy can flow, when you can manifest the most, when you have to go more into action. All these things are really, really clear when you make a lunar diagram and you actually track your cycle. So I think this is something really beautiful to hold yourself, and it actually takes 5 to 10 minutes per day. And I think that's really, really important. Also, it's what we're working for. We're creating this lunar diagram together. And I think it's just such a beautiful thing to give to our sisters. I am powerful, but you're powerful too. When are your powers most awake? And which power is most awake right now? So I think that's crucial, to empower each other as sisters. So I think that was also just key for me. So, and to transmute this sisterhood into, because we also have these patterns between women, this competitivity that is between us, and all these blockages we have to be more beautiful, more none, more this, more that, all the stereotypes. So we have so much things to clear.
Honestly.
So I feel
yes, there is work to be done.
So it's not like you have to go to deep 1 month tantra retreat to become this sexual goddess. No, you just can explore with yourself. You just can have a lunar diagram at home. You can go to women's circles, which is so healing, to sit with each other and open in a vulnerable, safe space. And that is what you do in sexuality. You open in a vulnerable, safe space. So it's not to put this in one phase, in one part of, this is in sexuality. No, this is with our sisters that are next to us, and we're competing with them. And you take this competitivity also to sex. So it's actually, if I heal one phase of myself, I heal them all. So that's why I like Tantra, because it embraces this and it realizes it actually faces all of it, and all of it affects it. So, as I said, exploring yourself, it can be yoni eggs, it can be lunar diagram, women's circles, finding a sister close to you. It has, and then the healing ways. You can meditate, and it's great. And I'm not against meditation at all, but you can also just dance. just go to dance and just like just rest, write, create, bleed. Oh my god, it's such a healing way to connect with our blood. It's like a way to give back to earth, right? To connect with our blood and see what's its mission actually, because it's not like there to just go to waste. Nothing is made to go to waste in nature. Actually, everything has a purpose. So we're just discovering the purpose of everything, right? That's the purpose of our blood. Why it's there. Why we bleed every month. It's just like another thing to annoy us as a woman. Why are we women and we have to use tampons every month? It doesn't work like that. It's actually a gift.
For sure.
It's just
for sure.
Come back to your body. It's just it's like go back to the natural way to connect with it. It's just reconnecting cables because they are there and you have them and we all have that wisdom. We just need to kind of reconnect with them, and sometimes we need like a push. Oh, remember this goes this way. So I think a lunar diagram is really helpful, and even today that I'm already made so many of them, still I forget. And then I look at my lunar diagram and wow, I'm in this phase right now. I should be more gentle with myself right now. Or I'm in this phase right now. That's why this fire is so active. Let's just keep making, So it just helped me to love myself more. And I think that's the deep healing. First with women, then we can also honor our mothers more and like, whoa, what they did for us and what they were going through. So yes, I think that's my summary. It's not like, as I said, it's not like going 10 days on a retreat or just doing anything really difficult. It's just like really taking 10 minutes of your day or just honoring yourself, feeling safe within you and asking for that. And asking for help to do that.
Yeah. I think a big part of like a big trap to fall into in the healing path really is this notion of like, oh, I should be doing that because that's what other people are doing for their healing path, or I should be journaling, or I should be meditating for this amount of time. I should be doing yoga. I should be doing ayahuasca. Like there is no should like in the healing path is kind of what I realized. It's like literally what you feel is best for you. And that really translates to the healing of a woman and her womb and her cycle and her sexual energy. It's like, especially with the sexual energy part, because it's really a space of like, there really should be no shoulds, a contradiction in itself, but there can't be any shoulds in that space, because it's like, there has been so many shoulds around that space for so long. And that's exactly what has created so much damage. And so, really, like, I really agree with you, like developing a practice of discovering yourself and, like a pleasure practice, so to speak, to kind of, if you're wanting to embark on that journey of like, coming into your sexual power and igniting your sexual power, then let's get comfortable with feeling pleasure. Let's get to know like how we feel pleasure and what our body feels like and how it feels in different contexts and how it feels when we're just with ourselves. And it's and then to bring, like, to marry that with meditation and with consciousness and with intention, because like you were saying, every time we have unconscious sex or sex where like, half of us is pulling that way, like, yes, I want it. And the other half of us is pulling the other way, like, no, this is traumatic. And it creates this kind of like split. And then you're like you said, it desensitizes the vulva. It desensitizes the whole area of the yoni because it's actually traumatic doing that. But it's also like, okay, if you have done that and even if that's still happening in your life, like there's no punishment or self-punishment around anything that like anyone is doing with their body, but just to speak to like the process of bringing consciousness towards the sexual energy and to heal that space. And like I said, it's really just an area that I feel like relative to like the potential of this path, I really feel like I'm only just dipping my toe in. And how kind of like intertwined it is with the cycle, which are like really starting to touch on now, which I'd really like to go into with you, especially for anyone who's listening, who's like not so, kind of like aware of what we're really speaking about when we say a lunar diagram and the 4 phases of the cycle and this and that. It would be nice to kind of like actually go into that so that we stay really clearly like, hey, your cycle and the different stages of your cycle every month is your power. And if you can tune in and get to know yourself in each phase of those cycles, it is your power. It is your wisdom. It is your magic as a woman. It is your birthright as a woman. It is your birthright as a witch, you know? So let's speak about that. Can we go into like the different, maybe we could like speak about it in terms of the archetypes or the 4 seasons or however you feel to start explaining it. But, I'd really love you to like, to share your wisdom on this one and to really like go into the kind of juices of like each phase of the cycle and like what power really like lies in each of the phases. So maybe we could start with spring or the virgin or wherever you feel to start.
Okay. Yeah. I love that. We can start. I wanted to say one more thing about this, the sexuality and the safety, to close it only. I wanted to say just like, of course, still exploring myself and I'm still discovering myself. And of course, there were people and persons that facilitate that space for me, but it's like a journey for ourselves to find, you know, the pleasure, and everything gives different pleasure to different people. So you can go to many retreats, but it's actually like, as we said, your own pleasure practice that actually gets you, and not to have a taboo around that. And yes, and to dive into the diagram, that is our co-creation actually. Which is really exciting because I've been wanting for a while to like really dive into it, and it was like just a mission within me to like offer every woman with this knowledge, because I see I still not like so aware. In society we have different phases and we have different archetypes. Most people know that they are bleeding, that they're a menstruating woman because they see the blood, but everything else is just not really like up. It's not really shown and talked about, and what actually being a menstruating woman is. So as you mentioned, we have different seasons, different archetypes, different connections to the moon in the different phases of our cycle. A woman has from 25 to 32 cycle of that includes like since you're bleeding till you start bleeding again. So those 25 to 32 days that in each woman is different and is healthy, that is different. Show different phases of yourself. We start with spring. Usually, like the calendar, we start actually with bleeding. We start with the witch. So I'm going to start with the witch, I feel. Yeah. Because that's the day 1 of the diagram. It represents, the menstruating woman, which is the woman that has their channel most open. It is connected to the winter and is connected to the full moon phase. To the new moon phase, because it's the darkness. It's the shadow side of ourselves. It's whatever is not accepted, not explored, what you can only meet when you're with yourself. You cannot really meet it in the light with other people. You just, when you're with yourself, you can really connect with this part. So I feel it is really one of the most powerful phases of us, and to really dive into it, you have to dive into all of them so you can get to the bleeding part, open to receive the knowledge as I talked before, also is like this part of the time that you are opening for a new soul to come into your body. So if you have a baby, you start opening in the menstruating cycle, in the premenstrual, like 2 days before you're bleeding, you open now to receive a soul in your body. So your crown chakra is so open. Your intuition is connected. You're an oracle. You're connected. In tribes, they will consider this woman with like witchcraft powers. You're in a different space of the tribe. Why? Because in this time you're more powerful, more connected. And this is really acknowledged in tribes. And they actually use this power to get wisdom for the community, to get wisdom for the tribe. Okay, what's the higher spirit saying? Let's leave this woman in a retreat so she can connect with that. So this phase is, as I said, connected to the winter, makes you go inwards into this cave in which you connect with your darkness of the womb and the darkness that comes from that wisdom. That actually the wisdom comes from the darkness, not from the light, which is also like this, okay, everything has to be light and beautiful. No, the darkness has so much beauty and so much wisdom that you have to open to it and to realize you're like more sensitive and you're not up for connecting in this moment as much as before. You just have different needs. Your sexual needs are different. Your sex changes in this phase. And also, this channel opens to receive the soul, but as you didn't receive the soul because you start bleeding, that's the moment you start bleeding. The womb realizes, okay, actually, I'm not fertilized. And this grief comes from it. So these emotions and this sadness and this like, actually, and you can use this creative energy that didn't create a life to create other things. Not rationally, not to do things, that's different. To create. So it can be to like, and it doesn't have to be creating with a purpose that is, yes, a project. It doesn't have to be something that actually becomes real. It has to be creating from the intuition. It has to be creating from pleasure. Because your body needs expression that didn't go to a life, that it went to your body. You didn't create this life, so you need to create something else. And this needed to create is important for the next phase of the cycle. So I'm going to come back to this phase because this is where the diagram starts, but actually it's the phase that is like less held by society, less accepted, more like put down. Like, how do you take days off? How do you rest? Because you need to sleep more, because you're bleeding. You're actually like losing endometrium blood, and this is the inner part of inner layer of the womb. So you actually need to rest. How do you do that when you're a mom and you have a kid that needs you still the same amount of time? How do you do that when you go to a normal job? And that's such a grief that is within women, just trying to keep up with this rhythm that is not natural. So I think that's such a deep healing we have to do with ourselves, to allow ourselves that it's okay not to be as efficient, that it's okay that we're not so rational, that it's okay that we need to rest more. It's okay I need my self-care rituals. It's okay that I'm not okay. It can be such a healing for us and for people around us to see that they can also take it to their everyday life, and for our kids. So yes, in the past they would make a red tent just for women, in which they will retreat for this phase and just like rest and connect with their intuition, connect with more sisters that are bleeding. and it would be called the red tent because it would be for the blood, and it will mark that nobody comes in there that is not bleeding, because they take care of their energy so much. And and we really lost this wisdom. Those were the witches that were burned also. And there was this, like, also all this legend that would talk about, like, how a woman if you bleed in the full moon, because bleeding in the new moon is what represents, right, the darkness. But each woman bleeds in their own moon, and it means different things from ourselves. If I bleed in this moon, it means I'm connected in this way with nature. If I bleed in this moon, so they would say in tribes, not in tribes, in society before, that when a woman would bleed in the full moon, she was more powerful. Why? Because the full moon is really powerful. We already know it affects us all, women or men. And if it affects society, you feel more open, more extrovert. The energy is so up. And combining this with this bleeding portal, it was so
it's
powerful.
Crazy. Wow.
It's so freaking crazy. You can receive so much from nature. You can literally, like, talk to the moon and channel her. It's just really amazing. And so a woman bleeding in a full moon was so powerful that they would just burn, and they would call this the red moon woman. A red moon woman was totally like a danger for society, of how wise she was, and how intuitive she was. She would, like, challenge everything society was standing for in this masculine way of seeing it.
Yeah.
So I think, yes, that's like where the diagram starts, so that like, it's really clear, because most of us don't know our faces yet. So connecting with a woman with the bleeding part of it is really easy. I start bleeding, it's day one, and since then you can track the rest of your cycle. And then we move into spring. Spring is the virgin. As I said, we change our face, and it's not like so from today to tomorrow I change my face. No, it's a gradual change, and then you can see yourself when your blood goes slower and slower, how you have more energy. Your energy is not going down to the roots and to Mother Earth. Your energy is going up, and you have more energy. In this time, in this phase, you're called the virgin. We call it because your sexuality also changes, so you feel more. You feel more open to a different kind of sex, to different kind of actions. All your rational brain reconnects in another way. So all this intuitive oracle, it doesn't feel like your energy is going there. You need to be more out, more social, more extrovert, and you open yourself to the world. You need to do.
Yeah.
Your body changes also. You feel more thin. You feel more sexy. And you feel also not in the virgin phase of your sexuality, in the virgin phase of your projects. You're here to do, start, So this is, we all love this feeling. When you stop bleeding, you're like, here I am now.
Yeah.
It's like, really like spring. Flowers are coming out. Here I am. It's sunny and shiny. And yes, it's an amazing feeling. Yeah. It's just different, right? And then we dive into this summer. Summer is when you're ovulating. It's the phase that you're ovulating, and we call it the mother. Why is the mother? Because it's the moment you have the most energy to give. You have the most fertile energy in that moment. So that means in libido, that means in projects, that means in creative energy. But your creative energy is not intuitive anymore, it's more like rational. You can do things to make them happen. If you had anything you wanted to create, anything you wanted to manifest, now is the moment to really take action and to give to others. In this moment, you can hold people. You have so much more capacity than in the other phases you don't have. And you have this mother energy to be able, sexual in the sexual world also. You have more mother energy, and you also have the capacity to fertilize the egg of your to actually create life. And it's beautiful because the hormones just hold this through the whole cycle. And of course you feel this fire within you, which is amazing. And of course, if you choose not to fertilize an egg, that energy can be channeled in another way, and you can really take advantage of this time to make things happen. So it's amazing when you feel this. In this phase of your cycle, you can actually fast because you have the capacity to hold yourself through that, because you have the energy that will not it's not dangerous, like when you're bleeding, because you're already giving too much. This moment is just for you to give and focus on the outside. And he's known to be with the full moon, because the full moon is also like shining and like, here I am, and everybody look at me. Also really outwards, really like, yes, it's also the energy that is also more accepted in society, because it fits with the needs of society. If we could always be in this energy, it would be great for them. And then we slowly, as I said, it's a slowly path. We dive into autumn. Autumn is also the time you can feel this energy just going away, and you can feel your brain going slower, and you can feel your movement going slowly. Exactly. And then your appetite, your food needs change. So you want to eat more, and then your breasts are bigger and they get full because you're about to bleed, and you're supposed to be about to create a life, and then your womb becomes also bigger. And this need to hide the womb is also been such a thing as women, like to have this flat belly, which is not true. We're supposed to have this round belly in this face, and it's so unhealthy to cover it. It's so dangerous for a womb, actually. It just moves our womb of position, to hide this womb. And it actually moves the rest of the organs, so it's actually unhealthy, physically unhealthy, to hide your womb. So to accept this little round belly, then maybe you could have the need to use different clothes, to dress differently, to be more at home, to create this escape. Usually this time is known as the premenstrual phase. That is the woman's with PMS. And this is the moment you just really have the water energy of the emotions. You're so sensitive, and you're diving for everything that didn't happen to fertilize this egg. And this grief is so deep that we channel it through everything, and it's really the anger is really up if we're not held in this phase of ourselves. So learn to accept our anger and the grief that is going through, and accept how to deal with it, because then it can become really fiery. A woman that cannot hold her fire through the premenstrual phase can become Kali. Kali is this goddess of destruction and transmutation. So she either destroys, or transmutes. So she can either have her space to transmute, or she can burn it all to death. So and she's really good with boundaries. She's really good with saying no, and when she feels safe, she's this gentle woman ready to transmute. So clearly, if you know you're in that phase of yourself, and you can take care of your safety, of your boundaries, of your space, and you can take care of yourself, go into more self-love rituals, take more time for yourself, you don't have to take this on the rest. You know your sexuality changed, your hunger changed, your practice has to change. You cannot I don't know, go to 1,000 appointments at this time of your phase, because you're more sensitive, more anxious. If you're too social, your self-esteem also kind of goes down because you're actually not taking care of yourself.
Yeah.
And I can feel it still within me, you know? And I can make myself go.
Mm-hmm.
But the hormones are going to still be there. And you can escape that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then when you track your cycle, and now we're arriving to the phase of the cycle where in the end, so it must be like day 25 to 30, and yes, you're finishing your cycle. Now you know you went through all of that. You know in which part you're fertile, and you have energy to conceive if that's what you want. If you want to take care of yourself with natural contraception, and you don't have to alter your hormones, you can also move into the phase you need to take care of yourself, for your daughter, for your partner, maybe to find somebody to take care of your child. This time you will do less work, and you find a way to fit it in society. And if you cannot, just find a moment in the day you can dedicate to yourself. Okay, at least half an hour before I go to sleep, I just make a hot bath for myself. I bear in mind I'm in this phase of my cycle, and I actually done a lot today. And just acknowledging it is such a grief for the body. You can really physically feel it because it's in your body. And you can move into the next bleeding phase and just live it with joy and not with pain, because all this PMS, all this menstrual pain, all this is not natural. It's not common. Oh, I'm bleeding, I'm having cramps. No, it's actually your body speaking. What are you not taking care of? So, yes, I think that's kind of the summary, but it's so deep.
Yes, it is so deep, and it is really, which I think is a really beautiful part of like the lunar calendar, and also your kind of message as well, is that like it is going to look different for every woman. Although there are general tendencies for each phase of the cycle that like most women will feel, and just the switch in your potential that you feel when you go into each phase of the cycle, knowing what you're probably going to experience so you can prepare for it, and you go into it rather than be unaware of where you are in your cycle, or be unaware of how you're feeling because you're not in tune with your body, and then you're pushing against it. Like you're at a party and your bleed is due tomorrow and you're wondering why you're socially anxious, or why you just don't fucking want to be there, or why everyone's pissing you off. But it's because you're not supposed to be there. I mean, not supposed to be there, but your body is telling you to kind of come into the cave, lift the veil above your eyes, and look and see the truths within you and around you. And, for example, you're in the phase where you're in your spring or in your summer and you're about to ovulate, and you have all of this energy of oh, why am I feeling I need to be into, or you're super horny, all of this energy, and it's oh, why am I randomly feeling really horny, or why am I randomly so talkative? It's because you're ovulating, girl. It's because you're ready to go, you're out there. And so just tuning into each of these is such a strength. It's such a strength because you kind of get behind yourself and you're oh yeah, this is when I'm supposed to be resting. And then you finish your bleed and your springtime actually feels like spring, like the earth spring. You've given yourself the time to rest and to hold yourself during the bleed, so that then when the springtime comes and your bleed finishes, or it starts to finish, you actually feel such a profound feeling of being refreshed and letting go of all of this kind of built up energy and built up frustrations and built up, things that didn't eventuate. And it's the bleed is a death, and you let go of it, and you cry with it, and you mourn it, and you also feel the wisdom that it holds. And then the spring is the springtime, and you move through again. And just, I can't speak like how much it's like changed my life, becoming more and more and more aware of each of the phases of the cycle, and really living my life in accordance to it, like living my life attuned to it, and having it like as the centerpiece on my altar, like having my womb as the centerpiece. And it's just, it's just so amazing. Like, the fact that it's not kind of like taught to women, and it's not taught to us, and then that we're like given these contraceptives that like blunt it and like numb us from the power of the cycle. Maybe it's a great time to go into the topic of contraception, because you're also have an amazing natural contraceptive method that you're using. But just that's the whole topic in itself. No, like the whole like tricky conversation of contraception in the modern world, because like you were saying earlier, kind of this fear of pregnancy taking away a lot of our ability to feel pleasure, for example, and a lot of our like feelings of freedom. And so it almost feels like we have this like, it's kind of pushed on like young girls, like you have two options. You either like risk pregnancy, or you you have three options. You either don't have sex, or you have sex and you risk pregnancy, or you have sex and you go on like these like strong hormonal contraceptives that are stopping you from ovulating and giving you this like fake bleed every month that's not like a proper bleed, and you're not ovulating. And to ovulate as a woman is like one of the most important things for our vitality and for our health, and it's just being taken from us, and that's just the norm. So let's speak about natural contraception, and obviously the first one kind of being like when you are so in tune with your cycle and you really know that each phase of the cycle, like when you're ovulating, so that's obviously one of the main methods. But let's go into that. Please share some of your wisdom on natural contraception.
Yeah, as you said, and you explained beautifully, that there is so many ways to fake your bleed through hormonal contraception, and it just takes away our vitality. I think you name it perfectly. So I'm just not gonna go into all these like hormonal contraception, because everybody chooses their method, but I think it's really good to know there is a natural way that doesn't affect your hormones, that you can choose to use. And for this, you need to know your cycle. So it makes you connect with your body, connect with yourself. It's not, I'm going to have this pill and I'm just like going to forget about everything. I don't know anything about myself, but I'm still not getting pregnant. For me, getting pregnant, first of all, is a freaking miracle. If you're like, to be like fertile, first of all, which is a sign of vitality, is like the fifth sign of health, actually. So to be fertile, the second one is like to find a match that actually fertilizes the egg, and that it happened in a fertile phase of your month, and that even it happened in the fertile phase of your month. If you're a match, if you're fertile, and it gets to the womb, if it gets to the ovary, wow,
It's amazing.
Which, of course, nature made it perfectly for it to happen. That's why there are babies in the world. That's why we are here, right? But it's not like such a like, oh my god, all this fear around it. I think it's been a huge danger to sell us all this hormonal contraception. So yes, I had my daughter, and after that I was like, okay, actually, I really want to keep exploring my sexuality, but I want to choose when I'm pregnant. Actually, I want to choose. I want to be able to have this power in my body, sovereign way of living that I can choose. And in the same time, I don't want it to make me unfertile, to alter my hormones. It makes you crazy.
Yeah.
So yes, exploring a lot. I'm from Argentina. I didn't say that. I'm from Argentina, so I met this woman in Argentina that was selling this hormonal contraception, apart from another beautiful womb health things that she was selling to take care of your womb, to menstruate without using like chemical tampons and all of this. And she was selling this natural contraception, so I just asked her to give me some, to give me like all her research. And we were talking for hours about this, and she was telling me that in India they use this tree that is called neem. Neem is like this beautiful tree. You can have tea from the leaves, but the fruit, when it's cold pressed, it has spermicide effects. So the cold pressed oil of this fruit, when it gets in touch with sperm, it kills it. It's really, really different pH. So it's really acid. So when it touches, it just, yes, it kills it. For this, you need to have the neem inside of your vulva in the moment of having sex or any sexual encounter. So yes, and I was like, whoa, this is like, how does not everybody know this? That was my first question.
Yeah.
And actually, in India, they know it. They've been using it for years. And they don't only use it for contraception, they use it for lice, they use it for pesticide, insecticide. It's just really strong, but it has to be cold pressed. And it has 98% contraception effects when it's inside of the vulva before having sex, which was really surprising for me, you know? Like, okay, this is the same as all the contraceptions. The pill also has 98%. Like, condoms have 99%. You know, everything has like 98, 99% contraception. Still, you know, nobody can give you 100% because condoms break. People like don't have the pill and or whatever, and they get pregnant anyway. Yes. So there is also this 1-2% that is there. But for me, it was so worth it to know there was this natural way of not altering my body, and I can choose of putting this neem inside my vulva before having sex. And it was, yes, such a deep, I don't know, relief. Yeah, to know I can, yes. I think it's like, it changes sex, you know, like to know I have the power within me and I don't have to go through this. And the only thing is that you need to know your cycle because it's so acid that it can change the pH of your vulva. I always say this because I also experienced it. And it can alter the pH of your vulva. And especially in this world that we have so many ways to make ourselves unfertile, and our pH of our vulva can be changed so easily. But things we eat, the plastic that is everywhere, over estrogen in food can alter our pH really fast. So it's good to take care of the pH of your vulva. So you can only use it the 10 most fertile days of your month. By tracking your cycle, you can know when you're fertile. So the mucus of your vulva changes in the different phases of the cycle. So when the mucus changes, you can know you're entering, going into the ovulating phase. It becomes like more creamy. Yes, and then there's another way of tracking your cycle that is by measuring your temperature. When you measure your temperature every day, there is one day that your temperature changes, that it goes up 2 degrees, 3 degrees. Then it's stable, stays stable again. When the temperature changes, is the day you're ovulating. That's the day you're the most fertile. And then when the temperature stays the same, you're not ovulating anymore. So it's actually like the temperature in your body changes. That's also why we go to spring, autumn, winter. because in summer you feel hot, the temperature goes up in your body.
Mm-hmm.
And so I use it the 10 most fertile days of the month.
Yeah.
I know right now by tracking my cycle when I ovulate, and 5 days before and 5 days after, I use the neem.
Mm-hmm.
So that's, for my experience, what works. Because if you overdo it, if you use it every day, it's also dangerous for the vulva, as we said, and that's in the pH only.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't need to be, but it could happen. It's one of the probable consequences. But I think it's really beautiful that you have to be aware of your cycles for using this contraceptive, and to bring this awareness to it also.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And you use a sponge, like you soak like a sponge in the oil, no? Or
There are two ways of using it. You can put a sponge, a sea sponge. You put like the neem, and then you put it facing up the cervix, and then you use it during sex. Or you can use it as lubricant, as an oil for sex, and that's also a possibility. So those are the two options to use it. Yeah. So yeah, it also yes. Yeah, it's also abortive if you're looking to have a kid. So it's also powerful in that way. But yes, I mean, I'm gonna open a little bit another window that is this like abortion world and what it means, you know. And the neem has been able to hold lots of women for natural abortion also. So it's a really strong natural way to go through it. Yeah. I haven't experienced it, but I know it's also, yeah. So just your why and your consciousness around it is really important.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Amazing. Because I've never heard of it before. And I've never tried it, but it's nice to kind of have it in the back of my mind if it does call me. Because the options that I feel like we have for natural contraception, for contraception, are like mostly damaging. And, you know, even if we go for like, obviously kind of hormonal, and again, like I'm not judging anyone's, decision, like you kind of mentioned before. Like if a woman really feels like hormonal contraception works for her, then go for it, especially if there's, you know, kinds of physiological, problems that a woman is having. Sometimes hormonal contraception can help it. But in my perspective, it is very much like a Band-Aid. It's not it, and it's a damaging Band-Aid. But yeah, to you know, have the option of like hormonal contraception, which stops you from ovulating, and your ovulation like triggers the release of progesterone, and we don't get progesterone in another way in the body other than ovulating. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that's what I've like heard before. And progesterone is such an important hormone in our body. And so by stopping ovulation, you're stopping the secretion of progesterone. And when you're taking the hormonal contraceptive, you're taking progestin, which is a fake version of progesterone. It's not actually progesterone. And so your whole vitality is being damaged. So just for anyone who's listening, who's on the hormonal contraceptive, there's no judgment here, but I think it's very important to like have your eyes open to the damage that this can actually be bringing you physiologically, not to mention all of the kind of like spiritual and energetic power that is quite possibly being taken from you from taking these. And so that's like, we have that option, no, of like hormonal contraceptive. And even if we say no to that, then we're like, okay, what about the coil, like the copper coil, or condoms, for example? Both of those, which like just, I guess I'll just give like my feeling and my perspective is they just feel like we're like condoms, for example. It's just, it does not feel in any way like I want to engage, like I have had sex with the guy wearing a condom before, but it's like it does not. I don't enjoy the feeling of like rubber plastic coming inside of me. You know, it's not like it's really something that my body like says no to, you know what I mean? And then the option of like the copper coil, like I used to have the IUD, but the hormonal version of the IUD. And I got that taken out. That hormonal IUD stopped me from bleeding for 4 years. Like I didn't bleed, and I was like, wow, this is so amazing. I'm not bleeding. This is so easy, like to be a woman now because I'm not bleeding. And then the day that I took it out, I bled like so heavily, and it was the night of the full moon. Actually, I remember the day so specifically. I got it taken out in Spain. It was like a couple of weeks after I first started drinking ayahuasca, and the medicine was like, get this shit out your body. And I got it taken out and started bleeding that night, like with the full moon. And ever since then was much more connected to my cycle. But yeah, for 4 years, like my bleed didn't come. And this is really common with the coil. For like 30% or something of women experience like their bleed just stopping, and it's kind of perceived as this like really convenient and positive thing. And now that I kind of see the other side of that, I'm like, wow, that's not convenient or positive at all. But yeah, so just to like say, you know, that the options that we have for contraception, I don't know so much about the copper coil. If you can speak a little about the copper coil, but I know that it kind of like disrupts the environment, no? Or the copper is poisonous to the sperm or something like this.
I know that version of it. I don't know much either. I know the copper coil, yes, is like poisonous to the sperm. And actually it also affects men, I heard, actually.
Okay, interesting.
So I don't know much about it, as I said. I just know, yes, my experience has been with the pill, actually, and I felt like I've been in the pill maybe 7 years, and yes, wow. Not only like taking it every day, but I felt like I was getting weight on. I was like on depression. I was like, it's like I was seeing life in gray, kind of. And then I stopped the pill, and I was like, oh my god, colors to life again.
Wow.
That's like, wow. I was repressing myself in every way, but I didn't know it was. It was like actually like the pill not allowing to feel every version of myself, you know, which is that because, as you said, it numbs progesterone, and it doesn't really block your menstrual cycle. It just more blocks your ovulation. It stops making us fertile. When you're not fertile, you're not healthy as a woman.
Yeah.
So it's not only the menstruating phase that we have to take care of, but the ovulatory phase also. We need to be fertile. Yeah. It's healthy to have libido. It's healthy to want to have sex. Are the hormones working out well? And yes, whenever I get into this phase, of course, not like shaming any way or any woman that chooses any way of contraception for their body. It's just my anger raises up a lot because I feel like how we have not been told all of our options, how we didn't have all the options, how we were not raised in consciousness for a cycle, for like what we deserve to know. Like, yes, why couldn't I choose for myself? Because I didn't know, you know. So that's what I want to. Okay, I bring it all to the table. You can still choose for yourself, but it has to be your decision. Okay. So it's really like yes. It's really important that to bring the power back to the woman, you know, and okay, now you know your cycle. You can choose. You have no excuse, okay? You know all of the versions of yourself. You cannot, I'm premenstrual, I'm like this. That's also an excuse, and it makes me really upset. No, just take care of yourself. Take back the power. Don't give it to your body. Don't give it, I'm premenstrual, this is how it goes. No. Here, I'm premenstrual. This is how I take care of myself right now. I want to have sex, and I have my sexuality awakened, and I deserve to have pleasure. So I take care of it. And I look at it, and I work with it. You know, I want to be healthy in my fertility. So I use the contraception that fits me the best, you know. I take the power back. Because if we keep giving the power, we cannot change anything in society, you know? And that starts with us. And I really feel it's so easy to give the power away as a woman. And that's something that, yes, it also kind of, I don't know, it's been, I think it's also my life mission again, to meet against my boundaries again, like, okay, no, this is where I stand, and to meet this empowered version of myself, no matter what. And seeing women that are not in their power, it just activates this fire within me, like, no, you can't choose, you know, here are the resources, now you can look at them, you know. Well, do you need to actually be empowered to meet the best version of yourself? The resources, here they are. You know, there is a natural contraception. You know, you can track your cycle. You can have lots of pleasure in sex, and you can feel safe and held. That exists. Are you gonna take it, or you can choose to look to another side, but you're not a victim anymore. So that's also like something I saw through the path, that I was like showing all these women, okay, this is, here you have it, here you have it, here you have it. And still there is so much blockage in society and within them and their lineage or whatever is there, and they choose not to look at it. And it was like, okay, I did my mission, and here it is. So I feel that's also my activism with this contraception. Is like, okay, I want everybody to know. If they know and they choose something else, it's okay. They chose something else, or whatever they chose, which is different for everybody, as you said. No judgment at all. Like, this contraception is for contraception. It doesn't take away the sexual disease risk. But that's also something you can know by knowing your body, knowing your vulva, knowing your pH. You know, it's also really easy to detect when you're in contact with your body. So, yes, I feel from my experience, like, talking about it is really important. And just, you can start using it, you can try it with yourself, but then you can speak about it and tell all of your sisters this is an option. And you don't need to put chemicals in your body. Do you need to alter your hormones? Do you need... Yes, we can be in a healthy contact with our vulva, you know, and just, it's important to touch it, to connect with it, to just smell it, to smell our fluids, to like take out the shame. Our blood, you know, it's also like, oh my god, it just smells so bad. It's just like, we use these menstrual pads that have perfume on it so they don't smell, you know. When I read that, I was like, oh my god, it's the smell of life, you know. Yes. This really awakens like my fire, because it's like, it's also, which, as I said, it's not really anger, but it's like also the fire that helps me like to go for it, you know, and just let everybody know. And also, when I made Johnny Steaming for the same time that it was a practice I was like, how does not every woman know about it? You know, how does not every woman just really get yes, Johnny Steaming is also like a self-care practice from our vulvas. And it was like, okay, how are we not taught that? Like, where is, like, we should have like this feminine school.
Yeah. There's a lot. I think this, like, these topics can be really charged, because there's a lot of damage that's been done, like, to women, and we're holding it, you know, unless we're doing the work to kind of reflect on it and to release it and to change the patterns, we're holding it within our bodies, within our wombs, from our ancestors. So it's not just kind of the trauma and the pain and the unnecessary suffering that's happening in the current society, but it's all of the generations before us. So that's partially why this work is so important, because, you know, having a daughter and being a mother yourself, do we want to pass these patterns on to our own daughters for them to heal, or do we want to do the healing ourselves? And, you know, just really also making clear that there's no judgment for a woman for making any decision that she wants to make, and that a lot of the energy that like comes into these spaces is like difficulty and pain that we have within our body, of this kind of like, hey, I need to use my fire to point out these things in society that are damaging us and damaging our daughters. And yeah, to kind of name that, and also, you know, speak about each woman having her own path, and having patience with herself on this path as she tries to kind of discover what's true for her, while at the same time stepping in, you know, knowing when to step into the fire, and knowing when to step into like, hey, enough is enough. Like, as a collective, as women, our patience has run very thin. And I feel it in me, and I see it in you, and I see it in every woman that is like choosing to really open their eyes to this. It's like, how best, for me, it's really like, how best can I use my fire in a way that is positive and enriching and uplifting, like, rather than destruction, like Kali, you know, and Kali is obviously both, and the potential for both. And I have seen, and I do see both in me, and I'm trying to kind of like consciously move more towards the like fire for energy and creation, rather than the fire for fucking destruction, because I also have that possibility within me too. And it has like brought, and it still like brings, to a certain extent, like I still witness in myself, like this kind of inherent anger towards men, like all men. And I have my eye very much on it. And so it is very much kind of like in control. But it can kind of come out, and I want to kind of, you know, continue to heal that and continue to look at that, so that I don't bring destruction into my like relationships with men. Because we don't want to be like, you know, bringing out anger from past lives and from past generations and from, you know, current traumas in society, you know, into the space where like men are also trying to heal these wounds. We're all trying to heal these wounds, and yeah, to bring kind of like compassion to that space, and compassion to each other as sisters, but also compassion to our brothers, and compassion to like the process that all of us are going through as a collective of, you know, the rise of the feminine, and, you know, re-understanding and retelling the story in our minds of like the role of the woman, and the role of the feminine, and the role of the sexuality, and the role of the blood, and all of this, like, it's being redefined, and it's rippling out and affecting women and men. So yeah, it's definitely a big one, and definitely a big kind of like portal for change. You know, if anyone's listening to this and they're like, you know, on a healing path, or like starting on a healing path, or anything like this, and they're not sure where to start, like, that's a good place to start. Healing the feminine, you know, whether you're a man or a woman, like, that's a very potent place to start. Yeah.
I completely agree. Oh my god, it's I talk a lot about the woman part, but as I said, it's for men to be conscious about this. I think it's so beautiful, it's so amazing and so attractive, and yes, it's healing for everybody. For men to be conscious about these phases, to be conscious about this contraception that women go through a lot hormonally, and men don't. So and I understand the anger going towards men, because for me it was also like a phase that I could not help it. It was against them, my anger, you know. And then I realized my grief was not doing anything by being angry with them. So this anger is really powerful, but I had to turn it towards me, like, okay, I didn't know anything about myself, how could they know? So yes, and also these phases of me, like I was really feminist for a phase, and I also realized for me in my journey, like being a feminist was like such a masculine way of defending the feminine awakening. So it was also not my way of, like, although this fire was really powerful and needed, to just because it was such an imbalance in society, this patriarchy, it was so deep ingrained, so there was needed a big shock. So I think feminist movement was really necessary. I don't think it's the ultimate reality of defending the feminine energy awakening. I feel actually the feminine energy awakening, it should be shown through the feminine energy, but this fire was needed. I feel it was like a breaking point and was really necessary, and I'm really grateful for all the women and men that stood in these manifestations. So this is really powerful. I also know it was my path. It's not right now, because now I meet the feminine energy in such a different way, and I prefer to like David, but like I said, like showing all these parts, that all this consciousness that is around it, all these options that you can have, because it's there. So now my speech is to women, not to men anymore, because before it was like, oh, this society is shit, everything should change, we should be like paid the same, and all these things that I don't actually like care so much that we're paid the same. I just want to tell my sister, hey, you can have pleasure, you can connect with your cycle, you can, just know yourself, love yourself. I think my journey is more through that path. And I was not helping actually my sisters by showing up in this masculine way of myself. So I really want to acknowledge this masculine energy within me, just because the masculine energy is the holder, the provider. And I want this masculine energy within me to hold and provide for my feminine energy to rise. So that's how I balance the energies within me. Okay. So I feel I have this strong emotion right now here, and that needs to be held. Okay. My masculine will say, okay, I see you, I hear you, you deserve to be held. So my feminine can arise with emotion. So I have both within me, but I want to like give space to both of them to acknowledge my feminine awakening right now in the feminine way.
Yeah.
If I defend the feminine in such a masculine way, I'm just not like really showing with example, it's just like creating more of the same in a different version, but the same.
Wow, that's really beautiful. Thank you for explaining it in that way. I haven't really heard it be explained in that way before. That, of course, we both have like the masculine and the feminine within us, and to know that we can have that masculine container within us that holds us as the feminine rises. Wow. Really, really nice. Thank you. Okay, so we're almost at 2 hours. How do you feel about closing by speaking a little bit about the project that we're working on?
I think yes, that would be great actually.
Cool.
I feel like talking about how this project was born, first of all. And so I think me and Emma met on different like creation moments here where we used to live in Spain. It wasn't until really connected with your art until you came to our yoni steaming ceremonies that I was holding with Hannah. So yes, for people that don't know about yoni steaming is this self-care process for women to just steam their vulva, because it relaxes all the inside walls of our womb, and also allows everything that needs to be released to release and just relax, which is also really beautiful to do in the premenstrual phase. It's also really beautiful to do to take care of your sexual life, because it relaxes you and it helps you have to sex from a relaxed vulva, not a contracted vulva. Yeah, we met in this ceremony with your art. And when I saw your art for this first time, creating this beautiful art for the Temple of the Womb, I realized I was needing that creative energy in my life somehow. I didn't know yet how. Yes, after seeing you really connected with our ceremony and seeing that you really connected, like, yes, with the work we were doing, also, it was like, okay, we should create from the womb space. It should like feel so aligned. And like you saw our vision so good, and you made this template for the Temple of the Womb. So yes, really connected with yourself, and you were like all the process, just not rushing it, just really connecting with what should come up. Okay, I'm like, okay, she knows how it goes. So later on the journey, I was like, okay, I had this like all this process of just bringing awareness to the cycle constantly, and it was a mission of mine, but I could not put it together by myself, and I realized I'm not in a phase of individualism. I think co-creation and sisterhood has been so powerful in this phase of my life. So actually, I just have to find a sister that is passionate enough about this topic with me, that we can collaborate, because I'm not supposed to be good in everything. I'm supposed to give what I have to give, and we all have to give different things. So I think that's important about sisterhood. So I connected with you, and I show you my vision. Okay, I need this, and you were on board since the first moment. Like, yes, we need to do this, which is as amazing because it felt like immediately it became like a mission of yours also. So it was like, okay, great. She knows what it means for me. She knows what it means for society, what it means for everybody, what it means for our sisters. Yeah, it was really nice since then to have these like creative talks, really get in the mood, really reconnecting with my cycle also from another perspective. Okay, like this cycle has to connect me with the wisdom that has to be in service for other sisters to also awake their wisdom. And I could see all this lineage of like ancestors of all the women that had wombs, and of the womb of the Mother Earth, that was really like going through me, like giving me all this wisdom to just be in service. Because as it was not for myself, it was to give. It was like this wisdom and these words and everything just came to me like really easily. Let's say I was really in tune, and I was feeling how everything was going to work out perfectly, and the people that need it will have what they need from this, just because there is so much before us, so much wisdom I actually took from great grandmothers, from tribes, that it was just unlocking in that moment. And it was like this remembrance moment in which I could not stop writing and I could not stop creating. And it was like, okay, and they need to know this and this and this and this. And also just to connect with the magic of it, not to like the brainy part of it. Like just like, okay, this is how they can be more empowered and they can meet themselves, I can give this wisdom that is not mine, that is from all the women and all the wombs that were here before me and that will come. And I just channel this, but also I give them the power back to themselves to meet themselves. They have the power. And I'm creating an empowered sister that will create another empowered sister, that will create an empowered sisterhood that will raise consciousness. So, of course, I'm just starting with one at a time. Even if one gets out there, I'm happy enough because it activates this chain effect, Yes, it's just, yes, this ignite like desire that I've been like having in my womb for so long, and now it wants to be birthed, and it wants to be there in the world. It now wants to be outside now, and it wants to be in the hands of people, and wants to be loved, taken care of, and just bring love. I think that's the mission for me in this calendar. It's called, it's a moon calendar, and it's called lunar diagram because it's a diagram in which you have all the phases of yourself. You're a mirror of the moon. And yes, it connects with your phases, it connects with yourself, it connects with nature, and it lets you connect with everything else outside of you. So yes. I don't know how you feel about it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm with you on everything you're saying. Yeah. It's yeah, well there's like two things that will release, both your kind of like your little babies. I feel like I've kind of been recruited for the artwork. And you know, it feels definitely like a co collaboration, but also just yeah, like naming that this is your, like you planted the seed, no, and you kind of conceptualized these ideas, which is so beautiful. And so the first one will be, yeah, the moon calendar, which will be like, yeah, a combination of yeah, this beautiful kind of ability to track your phases of your cycle over 13 moon cycles, and there will be lots of like information, everything that you need to know about the womb and each phase of the cycle written by Aya, and then it will be like accompanied by my artwork. And then there's also, and that will be, we're aiming to have that one out in like April or May at the latest of this year. And then there will be the Moon Diary, which is yeah, another project which will have 12 feminine archetypes drawn by myself, plus lots of information written by Aya in the form of like a yearly diary for 2025, and aiming to have that one out by like October of this year.
Yes, as you said, the second project that is like, yeah, for October of this year, we're planning to take it out. That is like how to live like an everyday life with your cycle. So I think it was really important to have like this agenda, like this normal agenda, but also connecting with the phases of the moon. So which, you know, in which moon we are right now and the energies available on Earth and on the system right now, the phases of your cycle. So you know where you are standing. And so you can actually like live an everyday life conscious about your cycle, organized around it if you can, the most that you can, and actually just having this knowledge around it. It's really approachable for everybody. It's really available to identify. It's not this super complicated. No, it's like this beautiful information about you and yourself and how you can connect with yourself. And all these months will like have different energies because there are different energies also available like in the earth right now. Like every full moon is like in Scorpio or in Pisces or in like different signs and different energies moving. So it's also nice to be aware that we're standing on different energies on the earth and different archetypes each month. And there is so many, yes, these 12 months just represent before, I mean, it would be 13 moons because in these 12 months you can live for 13 moons. So there was 13 moon cycles. I think now for like everything to work easily, they made it like, okay, let's make 12 months. So every year is the same, because if not, like if we have to live from the moon, it's more like changing all the time.
Right.
So they make these 12-month cycles. And each month will be shown with different archetype painted by our beautiful Emma. Which is one of the possibilities of the versions that you can embody, which is like great. And when you, yes, and just to connect with it and also to see like, okay, could be a possibility of a version of myself, you know, I think it's really important of women just to be aware of it, that it's there, that it exists. Because when I started to go into the archetypes of a woman, I didn't know they were even a possibility. And when I saw them, then I related to them. I knew exactly in which day I would relate to them, in which day I was the shaman, in which day I was the sister, in which day I was the birthing woman, in which day I knew. So it was really, yes, amazing. to reconnect with it. And I'm really glad, like, yes, to have you on board on this visual creation of it, and yes, to put it out there. I'm just excited.
Yay. Oh, so good. So good. Okay. Amazing. So let's close. Is there anything you feel to share before we close? Like, such as, if people want to get in contact with you anyway, I can link anything that you have in like below in the show notes. And I'll also link my social media as well. So if anyone's listening to this and wanting to know like when the calendar and the diary are coming out, or even to like pre-order them or how to get them and things like this, then we can be in contact through our social media, and also put all of that information below. So yeah, is there anything that you want to share on that before we wrap up, or any final thoughts?
So as I said, I work honoring the woman in their cycles. That means like the menstrual cycles as a menstrual therapist. Also, I hold women through birth, which is a really big rite of passage, and postpartum and early motherhood. So if you have any questions of that, or how to live your cycle, contraception, any sexuality questions, I'm also open to just hold you through that space, to make you feel safe and open up. Just, you can contact me through Instagram, and we just can like connect. I have a little market about like womb health products also that you can check. On my Instagram, I'll have the link. And here I am. Let's just race together.
Yeah. Aho. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.